My name is Archbishop Thabo. Let us listen to a portion of Psalm 98. Today we remember Teresa of Avila. Listen to the good news proclaimed in the Gospel according to St. Luke, the 11th chapter, beginning from verse 47. Woe to you, for you build the tombs of the prophets whom your ancestors killed. So you are witnesses and approve the deeds of your ancestors, for they killed them, and you build their tombs. Therefore also the wisdom of God said, I will send them prophets and apostles, some of whom they will kill and persecute, so that this generation may be changed with the blood of all the prophets shed since the foundation of the world, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who perished between the altar and the sanctuary. Yes, I tell you, it will be charged against this generation. Woe to you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You did not enter yourself, and you hindered those who were entering. When he went outside, the scribes and Pharisees began to be very hostile toward him and to cross-examine him about many things, lying in wait for him to catch him in something he might say. The scholars tell us that Psalm 98 is one of the coronation psalms, one of the psalms used to commemorate the return of the exiles from Babylon, one of the psalms that mark the beginning of something new, of new possibilities. Most people simply know it as the Magnificat of the Old Testament. Mary's great hymn follows the contours of this psalm so closely that many scholars believe that she had meditated on it for the length of the journey from Nazareth to her cousin Elizabeth's house. Just as something was being reversed when the exiles returned and the hope of something new was emerging for them in their return. So too for all of humanity, as Mary carried the child in her womb. This psalm and the echo it finds in Mary's lips is also the song that keeps the vision alive of a different world order, where God's mighty arm brings low the powerful and raises the lowly. The psalmist sees a time of righteous rule. There are three very beautiful thoughts that give wonder and poignancy to both stories. Firstly, it is the song of the Lord. Right from the beginning of this psalm, the people are encouraged to sing a new song unto the Lord. In a sense, the old song was Moses' song at the Red Sea when Pharaoh's chariots were engulfed in the waters and the Israelites were spared. The new song is the song of the returnees from Babylon in a new exodus. For the church, the song is indeed new, as it is sung to welcome the Messiah. It is the song which the psalmist reminds us must always be on our lips. Those who in our times, especially in this time of the pandemic, live with very little hope, who live with few resources, who are far from the places of power, look to us to sing a new song, a song which brings them nearer to justice, to the resources that allow them to live with dignity, and to a sense of hope about the future. That same opening verse reminds us that God's right hand, in other words, God's strength, has endowed him with victory. Historians point to the many pivotal moments in history when the unexplained has swung events to an anointed end. Ultimately, empires which are built on the exploitation of others, epochs that rise in fame but are built on injustice, collapse. We have seen it in our own times. Narcissism, the British Empire in India, apartheid have all had their moment of seemingly invincible power, have all held sway, and then slowly, small events, unconnected circumstances, seemingly unimportant people have risen to cast the mighty from their thrones, and the hand of God has been revealed. God's strength is manifest wherever justice is reclaimed, where compassion is ministered and dignity upheld. There we witness God's transforming strength. The second verse records, "The Lord has made known his salvation." Some preachers point to this text and speak of it as known and shown. It is also the story of deep personal witness and the power of our often very gentle witness that shows others something of the love of God, the joy of a holy way of life, and the courage to stand for the values of God. What is known in the heart is shown in our lives, as the old adage goes. Our lives influence others. Augustine was changed through the preaching of Ambrose. H.M. Stanley by the quiet witness of David Livingstone. H.M. Stanley wrote afterwards, "I was converted by Livingstone, although he had not meant to do so." St. Francis of Assisi taught friars. Preach all the time, and if necessary, use words. We are challenged to bring people to deeper faith, to enter more sacred spaces in their lives, not by words, but by our gentle witness. Let me end. It's a longish reflection today by going back to St. Teresa of Avila. If the psalm which we have been reflecting on over these past few days is also known as the book of prayer of the Hebrews, then St. Teresa of Avila is remembered as the teacher of prayer in the 1500s down to this day. One of my favorite lines from her writing is the insight about prayer. The important thing is not to think much, but to love much. She helped stem the tide against the over-intellectualizing of prayer. At the end of the day, for her, the greatest proof of prayer was not rarefied spiritual ecstasy, but love, which is shared. Another wise counsel of Teresa is her maxim: you will either stop praying or you will stop sinning. She went on to explain that one who chooses God will not willfully choose what is against God, and that life and prayer is thus a journey towards ever deeper choices that reflect love in practice. Perhaps the one that sits well with most people's experience of God at some point in their life is the saying for which she is widely known. After a time of deep testing, she said to some friends, "If that is how God treats his friend, no wonder he has so few." As the church calendar records her teaching and leadership, may something of the depth of her prayerfulness also define us as we make our journey to God's house. Amen.